Life has a humorous way of revealing our true selves. I would have laughed incredulously 2 years ago if you had told me that I would be where I am now, successful, self-sufficient, and totally cut off from my family. But here I am, and I have a lot to say about it. My name is Jillian Matthews, and I was a manager at the mid-sized trading firm TradeSync Solutions at the time. Like many women in their late 20s, I was beginning to feel pressured by society to settle down, even if I was competent at my profession. I had a small group of close pals and a respectable career. My parents, with whom I was then close, and my older brother, Marcus, who was 2 years older than me and had always been the family's golden child, made up my family. Growing up in the Boston suburbs, Marcus and I maintained what I believed to be a strong bond despite the usual sibling rivalry. I was more concerned with my profession and securing a secure future, but he was always the more gregarious one, the life of the party. I had come to accept the fact that our parents showered him with affection as the norm in our household. I first met Tom at Jenny's housewarming party, which is one of those get-togethers when friends of friends socialize over cheap wine and store-bought cheese. With dark brown hair that fell slightly over his eyes and a smile that gave everyone the impression that they were in on a private joke, he was charming in that subtle way that comes up unexpectedly. We began discussing how much we both enjoy listening to true crime podcasts, and before I knew it, 3 hours had gone by. After exchanging numbers that evening, we began texting every day a week later. We chatted on our first date at a little downtown Italian restaurant until the waiters began blaring at us about closing time. Before I knew it, we were spending every weekend together after the second date, developed into a third and then a fourth. Compared to the other men I had dated, Tom was unique. He appeared more responsible and future-oriented. We began discussing moving in together after 6 months of dating. We both valued conserving money and creating a secure future, and he held a respectable position in software sales. Tom took me to the same Italian restaurant where we had our first date on our 1-year anniversary. During dinner, he appeared anxious, fumbling with his water glass and checking his phone more frequently than normal. He knelt down to our table and took out a tiny velvet package just as our dessert arrived. I said sure, my heart thumping so loudly that I could not hear myself. The ring was exactly what I would have picked for myself. It was understated yet sophisticated. I was feeling like I was soaring on air as other diners praised and cheered us. Tom and I met my family the weekend following our engagement. I felt anxious. Marcus had a way of making people feel either instantly welcome or absolutely uncomfortable, and my folks could be fairly judgmental. With him, there was typically no middle ground. Before we even made it to the porch, Mom opened the door. "My baby girl is there." She turned to Tom after yanking me into an embrace. "And the man who has captured our Jillian's heart must be you." Marcus and Dad were watching a football game in the living room. Marcus quickly leaped to his feet and held out his hand to Tom. He smirked and shook Tom's hand firmly, saying, "So you're the guy my little sister won't stop talking about. And you must be the notorious Marcus," Tom said with ease. "Jill has also told me a lot about you." I had a better afternoon than I had anticipated. Despite my objections, Mom insisted on displaying Tom all of my embarrassing childhood pictures, while Dad interrogated him about his career and future goals. I was surprised to see that Tom and Marcus clicked right away, especially after they found out they were fans of the same football team. I've been dreaming of having a brother forever, but all I got was this troublemaker. Marcus finally yelled at supper, putting his arm around Tom's shoulders. He gestured with his fork at me. I gave him a tongue out. "Please, you couldn't have made it through high school without me filling in for you." He chuckled, and the entire table joined in, saying, "True that, sis." The months that followed were filled with hectic wedding planning. The flower arrangements were handled by Mom. The venue negotiations were handled by Dad. Marcus, too? Marcus, however, declared himself Tom's drinking companion and unofficial bachelor party planner. They began getting together frequently for drinks, and I must admit that I was ecstatic to witness my brother and fiancée grow so close. The actual wedding was straightforward but ideal, with mason jars full of wildflowers on the tables and fairy lights draped around the trees. We hosted it in my parents' backyard, with our closest friends and family there. I genuinely thought this was my happily ever after when Tom kissed me after saying, "I do." After the honeymoon, we moved into Tom's rental apartment, a comfortable one-bedroom in a good area. We began saving for our own home at that point. In order to determine who could save more for the down payment, we made it into a friendly competition in which we each deposited money into different accounts. It was enjoyable at first. We would prepare elaborate meals together to avoid dining at pricey restaurants, enjoy movie evenings at home rather than going out, and check takeout menus to find the greatest bargains. However, Tom became restless after 3 months. One evening he grumbled, "We're already becoming an old married couple. We are too young to lead solitary lives." I demonstrated to him how much we had already saved in an attempt to remind him of our objectives. "Consider this, we might have our own space in a few years. That would be worthwhile, wouldn't it?" Marcus began asking him out on Friday nights for men nights after he would nod and appear to understand. At first, I was worried, but Marcus told me that he would keep an eye on Tom. Trusted him. After all, my own brother is the best person to entrust with my husband. And after these excursions, Tom would always return home happier, more understanding of our saving objectives, and more affectionate. As a result, I came to accept it and even look forward to Friday nights when I had some alone time. I was pleased with our development a year into our marriage. I was steadily increasing my savings. I had saved up a little more than $30,000. I was unaware of Tom's savings. I hoped he was doing as well as I was, but we had kept that aspect of our competition under wraps. Tom revealed the details of his fishing trip on a Thursday night. During supper, he declared, "Marcus and I are considering going fishing this weekend. A cabin up at Lake Webster belongs to his friend." Startled, I looked up from my noodles. This weekend, I believed that we would be able to spend some time together at last. "All this week, you have been working late." He smiled, and his eyes glowed like a child at Christmas, saying, "Come on, Jill. It's been a long time since I went fishing. It will be fun. A few beers, the two of us, and maybe something to boast about." Just as planned, someone knocked on our door. Marcus rushed in. He had an emergency key, but I was beginning to wonder if it was a good idea. He swung his arms wide and said, "Little sister, please, please, pretty please, let me go fishing this weekend with your amazing husband." He abruptly fell to his knees in front of my chair. "I swear I'll look after him well. There are only 2 men attempting to outsmart some fish, no insane parties or stunts." I couldn't contain my laughter. "You fool, get up. Not 4, but 40. With his best puppy dog eyes, which had saved him from danger numerous times during our childhood, he pleaded, "Not until you say yes." They packed a cooler full of provisions and fishing equipment into the car and set off early on Saturday morning. In an attempt to stay occupied, I cleaned the apartment for the majority of that morning. I was climbing the walls out of boredom by the afternoon. I got an idea at that point. Over the preceding year, Sarah, Marcus's girlfriend, and I had gotten to know each other rather well. She was intelligent, humorous, and appeared to genuinely enjoy my brother's company. She could wish to go shopping. I could defend spending a little of my savings on some lady time. After taking out my phone, I called her number. The 3rd ring was heard by her. "This is Jillian." "Hello, Sarah. I wanted to know if you wanted to go shopping and possibly have lunch since the lads are out fishing." The person on the other end paused. "Are you fishing?" "Not that Marcus is fishing. He's at my house with me. We're getting ready to spend the weekend driving to my folks' place. In fact, he is currently in the adjacent room. My blood froze. I heard my brother's voice in the background. "Who's that, babe?" Sarah said, "Just my friend, Lucy," in a somewhat hushed tone. As the ramifications of what I had just learned started to set in, I sat there with my phone to my ear. Both my brother and my spouse had deceived me. However, why? Actually, where was Tom heading? "Sarah," I muttered, "please don't relay this call to Marcus. I've got to do something. Just please." "Of course," the woman assured him. "Are you okay?" "I'm not sure. Later, I'll give you a call." Before my voice could break, I hung up. I just sat on our bed for a few minutes, my thoughts whirling. On his desk, humming softly in sleep mode, was Tom's laptop. I believed that we had always been honest with one another about passwords. His was straightforward, the date of his mother's birth. I had made fun of him for wanting more protection and for being too predictable. I was benefiting from that predictability now. I unlocked the laptop and entered the password with shaking hands. He remained logged into his social media sites. He had also always been irresponsible about that. Then I noticed that her name was Rebecca. The message thread was lengthy and dated back several months. I felt as though my entire world was collapsing around me with every scroll and message I read. "My dear, I can't wait to see you this weekend. Was the phishing narrative believable to your wife? Yes, I have my brother-in-law's support. Ha, he's a legend. She has no idea. Must be nice having such a trusting wife. Nearly every other weekend, they have been getting together. Lodgings. Her flat. Even weekend getaways that are passed off as men's outings or business conferences. The degree of specificity. Their jokes about me were casually harsh. The private photos they exchanged. I felt physically ill from it. However, worse was to follow. On another message thread was Marcus, my brother, guardian, and best friend from childhood. Tom had just written, "She totally bought it again, yesterday. Your sister's as gullible as ever, huh?" Marcus said. "Gil has never been very quick. Do you recall when I persuaded her that ice cream grew on trees when we were children? She has never become any more intelligent. Bro, you're the greatest wingman ever. By the way, Rebecca says hello, expresses gratitude for covering Sarah as well. At any time. For what purpose are brothers? In addition, this is a lot more enjoyable than spending time with my dull sister. When you return, give me a call. The girls from the strip club last month have been inquiring about us." The texts were endless. Plans for their men's evenings. In-depth reports on their strip club visits. Talks about other women they had encountered. Marcus had been actively involved in a lifestyle that would ruin Sarah if she ever discovered it, in addition to serving as a cover for Tom's affair. I read that they made fun of my meticulous strategies for conserving. How they made fun of my aspirations to become a homeowner. They made a joke about how I was such a sucker that I would probably wind up paying for everything anyhow. Had been called foolish by my own brother. Uninformed, dull. The same brother who, as children, used to scare bullies away. Who, 2 years prior, had held my hand during Dad's surgery. Who had shed tears at my wedding. The space was whirling. My entire body trembled as I hurried to the restroom and puked. I returned methodically to the laptop as soon as I was able to stand again. Every damaging message was transmitted to my email account. Every bad joke. Every deliberate lie. All of the proof of their treachery. I was in a weird, peaceful anger on Saturday night, researching apartments and making calls carefully. I had found a furnished one-bedroom apartment across town. By Sunday morning, paid the deposit out of my funds and electronically signed the contract. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tom arrived home with a flushed and joyful smile. In a pitiful attempt to keep his story going, He was holding a bag from the convenience store that contained some frozen fish. "Hey, babe," he exclaimed with joy. "You should have seen the ones that got away." My laptop was open in front of me as I sat at the kitchen table. I turned it toward him without saying anything. His chat with Rebecca, including their plans for this weekend's get-together, was displayed on the screen. You know what's funny? My voice was unnaturally calm as I spoke. "I actually expected you to at least try to apologize." His face hardened as he stood up straight. "Why ought I to? Are you curious about the truth? Jillian, you've gotten dull. Saving money and making plans for the future are all that matter to you. Where's the fun? Where's the thrill? Marcus says what?" I interrupted him. "That I'm not smart, ignorant, that I'm such a fool for thinking my brother and hubby would be truthful with me. Look," he said with a sigh as he combed his hair, "perhaps this is best for us. It's obvious that we have distinct desires." "You're right," I interjected once more and got to my feet. "I desired to get married. You desired convenience." I reached behind the couch and took my already packed suitcase. "I'm going to file for divorce. Don't worry about your priceless savings. After all those hotel rooms and strip clubs, I doubt there's much left, but you can keep them." Moving my essentials to the new flat took all the afternoon. With simple furnishings and a view of a tiny park, it was compact yet tidy. My Fresh Start fund would suddenly be my savings, the money I had been putting aside for our future. I took a car to my folks' house that night so I could attend their Sunday supper. Sarah and Marcus would be there, I knew. Every weekend, they spent time with her folks. When I got there, Mom was arranging the dinner. Marcus and Sarah sat on the couch, looking like the ideal pair, while Dad was in his favorite recliner. "There's my girl," grinned Mom. "We missed you at lunch yesterday." "Yeah, about that." I gave Marcus my full attention. "How was your weekend covering for Tom's affair, Marcus?" The room fell silent. Marcus's expression went white. "What are you talking about?" Dad insisted. After taking out my phone, I began reading the messages out loud. The harsh jokes. The strip club comes to town. The careful preparation of lies. Sarah's expression became more terrified with every syllable. She looked to Marcus with tears in her eyes after I was done. "Is this true?" He was unable to gaze upon her. "Sarah, please." The room reverberated with the sound of her palm making contact with his cheek. "We're done," she said with a choke. "Everything. We're finished." She snatched up her handbag and slammed the front door behind her as she fled. Thought my parents would be startled, upset, and disappointed in Marcus when Sarah departed. Rather, my mom started crying, not for me, but for him. She said, "Look what you've done," as she hurried to console Marcus, who was sitting with his head in him. "Your brother's relationship is ruined." I gaped at her in shock. "Are you for real now? Have you heard what I just said? About the way he assisted Tom in deceiving me? What about the strip clubs? The falsehoods?" "Oh, Jillian," Dad said with a sigh and a head shake. "Girls will be boys. You are exaggerating a minor issue. Marcus was acting like a wonderful friend, and Tom was just venting. A good friend." I had the impression that I had entered a strange parallel universe. My spouse cheated on me with his help. He spent months deceiving me. And now you've destroyed his relationship with Sarah. Mom said, "Was that truly required? Wouldn't you have been able to address this in private?" With his eyes dry and burning, Marcus raised his head. "Yes, sis. A very sophisticated move. Didn't you just have to bring everyone along for the ride?" Between them, I saw my father giving me that disillusioned expression he developed over the years, my brother acting like the victim as he had all his life, and my mother caressing Marcus's hair as though he were a hurt kid. Something broke inside of me at that very instant. Or perhaps it reformed, this time colder and harder. You know what? You're correct. I should have realized that none of you would support me. The golden child has always been Marcus, hasn't he? There is nothing he can do wrong. Congratulations, then. You can have one another. That night, I left my childhood home without turning around. The divorce process moved along really quickly. Tom claimed my money were marital property and attempted to seize half of them. He tried to appear reasonable when he said, "We agreed to save together," during the mediation. It was our joint plan for our future. Even his parents, however, who had avoided the entire situation, advised him to stop. His mother responded forcefully, "Don't make yourself look worse than you already do." The following day, he retracted his allegation. I had heard from mutual acquaintances that Tan and Marcus were still quite close. Marcus had enjoyed being single once more, without Sarah to hold him accountable. They lived like college freshmen rather than 30-something adult men, frequenting every bar and club in town. Party photos of groups of girls and inebriated adventures were all over their social media accounts. Word reached me, even though I didn't look very often. It's funny how removing everything may lead to clarity. Could at last concentrate on what I wanted without the interruptions of a failed marriage or family drama. And I wanted to be successful. I offered to help with any difficult project that TradeSync Solutions came up with, those that other managers shunned because they were too time-consuming, too dangerous, or too complicated. I grabbed them all. I arrived early, stayed late, and gave every project my all in an effort to make it great. The Anderson account, a client that everyone had written off as unreachable, was my first significant success. I developed new reporting systems, reorganized their whole trading environment, and raised their first quarter profitability by 47%. The CEO himself gave me a call to compliment my efforts. Larger initiatives were the result of that success. I created a new risk assessment procedure that prevented the company from suffering losses that may have cost millions of dollars. I reduced transaction times by 60% by streamlining our foreign trading procedures. People began to take note as each triumph built on the one before it. One day, my supervisor called me in and said, "Jillian, would you be interested in being a member of the management team? Someone with your vision is needed." A corner office and an eye-watering salary accompanied the promotion. I treated myself to a sleek black Mercedes as a way to celebrate. Maybe that wasn't the most sensible decision, but I wanted something that would serve as a daily reminder of my progress. After 6 months, I finally closed on my ideal apartment, a 2-bedroom condo in the most sought-after area of the city. Even though the mortgage payments were high, I could manage them. I was proud of what I had created on my own every night as I stood on my balcony and looked out at the city lights. It had been a long time since I had spoken to my folks. No calls on birthdays, no Christmas parties, no Sunday meal. Their numbers would occasionally appear on my phone, but I never called. The injuries remained too fresh. The treachery was too recent. Then, on a random Tuesday evening, as I was reviewing quarterly projections in my new home office, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and few people had my new address. Through the security camera, I saw my parents standing there, looking older and more tired than I remembered. For a moment, I considered not answering, but something in their posture, the way Mom kept wringing her hands, how Dad's shoulders slumped, made me buzz them up. "Jillian," Mom started as soon as I opened the door. "You look wonderful. What do you want?" My voice was cool, professional, the same tone I used in difficult client meetings. They exchanged glances before Dad spoke. "It's about Marcus. We were wrong about him, about everything. They told me how Marcus had spiraled after Sarah left him, how his friendship with Tom had turned toxic. Endless partying, drinking, hooking up with random women. How he'd started showing up to work hungover, then drunk. 2 formal warnings, one for being intoxicated at his desk, another for no-showing an important client meeting. He's been fired, Mom said, her voice breaking. His references are terrible. No one will hire him. He's living in his old room now. He has no money, no prospects. What exactly do you expect me to do about this? I asked, leaning against my kitchen counter. The marble was cool against my palms, a small luxury I'd chosen for myself when renovating. Mom's eyes lit up with hope at my question. Well, sweetheart, we know you're in management now at such a prestigious company. We were thinking, maybe you could find a position for him, Dad continued. Something suitable, with a good salary. It doesn't have to be anything too demanding. A laugh escaped my lips before I could stop it. Let me get this straight. You want me to risk my professional reputation, which I built from scratch, to give a cushy job to the brother who betrayed me? The same brother who helped destroy my marriage. Jillian, that was 2 years ago. Mom pleaded. People make mistakes. Mistakes. I straightened up, my voice deadly calm. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is being late for dinner. What Marcus did. That was a choice. Multiple choices, actually. He chose to cover for Tom's affairs. He chose to mock me behind my back. He chose his friendship with my cheating ex-husband over his own sister. He's family, Dad argued, his face reddening. Family forgives. Really? Where was this family loyalty when I needed it? When I showed you proof of what they'd done to me? You sided with him then, remember. You're being unreasonable. Mom snapped. If you don't help your brother, we'll disinherit you. Everything will go to Marcus. I looked around my apartment at the art I'd chosen, the furniture I'd bought, the life I'd built without their help. Then I laughed again, genuinely this time. I don't need or want anything from you. I think it's time for you to leave. I walked to the door and held it open. I have an early meeting tomorrow. They tried to argue more, but I simply stood there, door open, waiting. Finally, they left. Mom in tears, Dad muttering about ungrateful daughters. As I closed the door behind them, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Through the window, I watched them get into their aging Volvo, the same car they'd had since I was in college. I thought about Marcus in his childhood bedroom, probably nursing another hangover, waiting for someone else to solve his problems like they always had. Last I heard, he was doing odd jobs around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, painting fences, anything to scrape together drinking money. Tom had eventually grown tired of partying with a broke friend and moved on. Karma, as they say, is a patient visitor. I went out onto my balcony after pouring myself a glass of wine, a costly Bordeaux that I had purchased to commemorate my most recent successful endeavor. The lights in the city glowed like stars that had fallen to the ground as it spread out in front of me. My Mercedes, a representation of everything I had accomplished on my own, was parked in its designated space below. I could be labeled cold by others for abandoning my family. Family, however, is more than just blood. It all comes down to loyalty, respect, and trust. People who genuinely care about you don't try to control you, betray you, or make fun of you. They cheer you on, encourage you, and acknowledge your accomplishments.
Hi, I'm Mary, 28, a marketing executive at Dixon & Partners. I've always been proud of taking care of my mom, especially after she divorced Dad when I was 15. The apartment is perfect, honey. I can finally host proper dinner parties. Mom squealed on the phone as I helped her move into her new luxury apartment, the one I was partially paying for. I smiled, remembering how hard she worked raising me alone. That's great, Mom. Just remember, it's a bit over budget, so we'll need to keep the extras in check. Oh, darling, don't worry. You know how good I am with money, she said breezily. Later that week, while having coffee with my best friend Jennifer, Mom called again, her excitement palpable. Mary, you won't believe who I met at the country club, Sandra Thompson, from Thompson Real Estate. The Thompson Real Estate? I asked, incredulous. How did you end up there? Oh, I have my ways, she replied coyly. Sandra and I just clicked. She's even invited me to her charity gala next weekend. Jennifer raised an eyebrow as I hung up. Your mom, at the Thompson Gala? That's interesting. When my boyfriend Michael joined us a few minutes later, I filled him in on Mom's sudden social leap. She's been acting different. Last week, she showed me her Instagram and had edited old photos to hide the peeling wallpaper in our old apartment. Michael frowned. That doesn't sound like her. Linda always used to be proud of how she managed as a single mom. That evening, I stopped by her apartment and found her practicing what she called her society laugh in front of a mirror. Mom, where are all the family photos? I asked, noticing the bare walls. Of those old things. She waved dismissively. They didn't match the new decor. Sandra's decorator suggested something more modern. Even the ones with Grandma and Grandpa. Your wedding photo. Mary, let's be realistic. Those photos, they show a different time, she said, avoiding my eyes. Sandra's crowd has certain expectations. You mean they show we're Chinese? That we're middle class? Mary, you don't understand. Sometimes we need to adapt. Adapt. Last week, you told me to call you Linda instead of Mom in public. Well, you're old enough now. It sounds more sophisticated. A text from Jennifer buzzed on my phone. Your mom just posted about her summer home in the Hamptons on Facebook. Isn't that your cousin's beach rental? I glanced at Mom, now balancing a book on her head as part of her poise training. The woman who once taught me character mattered more than appearances was vanishing before my eyes. This dinner party will change everything, she said, not meeting my gaze. The Thompsons are coming. Everything must be perfect. The night of the party, I arrived early with the expensive wine she asked for. The apartment smelled of catered French cuisine, undoubtedly charged to my credit card. Mom, I got everything you needed. Do you need help with anything else? Just one thing, she said, handing me a black dress and white apron. What is this? I asked, confused. Oh, just for tonight. Please, Mary, she pleaded. Before I could protest, the doorbell rang. She rushed to greet Sandra Thompson, her husband Patrick, and their son Peter, all elegantly dressed. Maria, come meet our guests, Mom called out, her voice honeyed. It took me a moment to realize she was talking to me. This is Maria, my wonderful cleaning lady. She's such a treasure. Her words hit like a slap. I managed a polite nod, my face burning. Linda, tell them about your daughter in Europe, Sandra gushed, the one doing her PhD. As I served appetizers, Mom spun elaborate tales about her daughter at Oxford, her summers in Monaco, and embassy parties with her late husband, the ambassador. My dad, a high school math teacher, would have laughed at the absurdity. Jennifer arrived mid-party, as Mom had forgotten she'd invited her weeks ago. What are you wearing? She hissed. Apparently, I'm Maria tonight, I whispered back. Jennifer's jaw dropped as Mom continued weaving her web of lies. From small investments in the Thompsons' new real estate project to properties in Monaco, it all felt surreal. Later, after the guests left, I confronted her. Mom, an imaginary daughter. Embassy parties, Monaco properties, and what about this investment with the Thompsons? Where did you get $500,000? It's just temporary, Mary, she said, her voice trembling. I needed to keep up appearances. With my money? The apartment payments, the credit cards, don't be so dramatic. Mom waved me off. Once the investment pays off, everything will be fine. Mom, this isn't networking. It's fraud, I said, my voice shaking. It's business, she snapped. You're too naive to understand how things work in these circles. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to call my broker about the Monaco property. I watched her stride away, still draped in her fantasy world, as if nothing had happened. A text from Jennifer lit up my phone. Check your credit report now. Her insistence wasn't misplaced. My stomach dropped when I saw the results. 6 new credit cards opened in my name, all maxed out. The next morning, I stormed into Mom's apartment, the report clenched in my trembling hands. How could you do this? I demanded. These cards aren't even in your name. Lower your voice, Mary. The neighbors might hear, she said coolly, as if that were the biggest concern. The neighbors? Mom, you stole my identity. You committed identity theft. Borrowed, she corrected, crossing her arms. I merely borrowed your excellent credit for a few investments. Once they mature, everything will be repaid. Investments? You mean the fake Monaco property or the Thompson deal you can't possibly afford? She rolled her eyes. You're being hysterical. This is why I needed a more sophisticated daughter for my new circle. Someone who understands the importance of appearances. You mean your fake Oxford daughter? My voice cracked. Mom ignored me, already checking her phone. Sandra's texting about the yacht club membership, she muttered as if I wasn't even there. At work the next day, I met a new hire. Hi, I'm Emily Thompson, she said, offering a friendly smile. I just transferred from the LA office. My stomach dropped. Thompson. Over lunch, Emily proved refreshingly down to earth. God, those charity galas my mom throws are so pretentious, she groaned. Everyone's just there to show off. Must be tough dealing with all that, I said cautiously. Right? Speaking of deals though, Mom won't shut up about this amazing investment opportunity. Some woman named Linda Chen convinced them to back a huge development project. I nearly choked on my salad. Dad's usually super careful, Emily continued, but this Linda person really worked her magic, got them to fast-track everything. That evening, Jennifer came over with takeout and her laptop. Look what I found, she said, pulling up a series of documents. Your mom's been very busy. Loan applications, investment proposals, wire transfers. How did you get these? I asked, shocked. Peter Thompson sent them. He's been digging too. Jennifer clicked on another file. Look, those investment documents your mom gave his parents? The signatures don't even match. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Hey, weird question, but do you know Linda Chen? Mom's freaking out because some checks bounced. Before I could reply, my phone rang. Mary, darling, Mom's voice cooed. I need a tiny favor. Would you co-sign a small business loan? Just a formality. Are you kidding me? I snapped. After everything you've done. This attitude is exactly why I had to invent a better daughter, she said coldly. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have a child who doesn't understand the importance of appearances? Do you know how embarrassing it is to serve dinner to your mother's friends as Maria the maid? That was a compliment. Help is so hard to find these days. The following week was a blur of revelations. Jennifer found social media posts where Mom claimed to own companies I'd never heard of. Emily reported her parents were growing uneasy about their investment. Peter unearthed more documents showing Mom had convinced other wealthy friends to back non-existent properties. Then came the fallout. Letters from credit card companies demanding payments, banks questioning loan applications, and a notice from the IRS requesting clarification on suspicious transactions. Finally, Mom called me, her voice trembling for the first time. Mary, she whispered, the Thompsons are asking questions about the properties. The investments? I might have been a bit creative with some details, Mom admitted when I confronted her. Creative? You mean fraudulent. Such an ugly word, she sniffed. I prefer aspirational. Now, about that business loan. I hung up before she could finish. My phone immediately lit up with texts. Emily. OMG, your mom is the Linda. Dad's lawyers are going crazy. Jennifer. Check your email. More documents from Peter. It's worse than we thought. Peter. My parents' lawyer would like to speak with you. The house of cards Mom had built was finally tumbling down, and I had front row seats to the collapse. I sat in the Thompsons' lawyer's office, surrounded by stacks of evidence. Jennifer's recordings, Peter's documents, my credit reports, and dozens of fraudulent investment papers. Your mother's activities are extensive, the lawyer said gravely. The fake properties alone. We'll handle all the legal details, Sandra Thompson interrupted. Then she turned to me with an accusatory look. But Mary, darling, why didn't you tell us sooner? Tell you what? That my mother introduced me as the maid? That she invented a fake daughter because I wasn't good enough. Sandra at least had the grace to look embarrassed. The dominoes fell quickly after that. Mom's wealthy friends discovered their investments were fake. The country club revoked her membership. The IRS flagged suspicious transactions. Her social media empire of lies crumbled as people realized every post was fabricated. Emily texted me later. Did you see? Your mom tried joining the Sterling Club claiming to be a European duchess. I was typing a response when my boss called me into his office. "Mary," he said, "we've been impressed with how you've handled everything. We'd like to offer you the Director of Marketing position." That night, I celebrated my promotion with Michael and Jennifer at our favorite restaurant. As we toasted, my phone buzzed with a notification. Mom had filed for bankruptcy. "Good," Jennifer said, raising her glass. "Justice served." The next morning, a letter arrived from Mom. "Dearest Mary, I'm writing this from my new apartment, much smaller as you'd expect. You'll be disappointed to know that everything I built, well, borrowed, is gone. The Thompsons' lawsuit, the IRS investigation, the bankruptcy. I've hit rock bottom. But losing you hurts the most. I was wrong, so terribly wrong about everything. The fake daughter, the maid incident, the credit cards. I let superficial things blind me to what really mattered. You were always the perfect daughter. I was the imperfect mother. Please forgive me." I folded the letter and tucked it into my desk drawer. On my computer screen, a news article headline stared back at me. "Socialite Linda Chen faces federal investigation for investment fraud." The story was over. Now I have a question for you. What would you do if your own mother erased your existence to climb the social ladder? Would you give her another chance after an apology like this? Or would you, like me, maintain firm boundaries? The truth is, sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. Share your thoughts in the comments below.